like to call a City Commission Workshop for Monday, September 12th to order, and ask the city clerk, well, let the record show that the city engineer, city attorney, city manager, and the commission is here with the exception of the vice mayor, who is on an excused vacation trip. If you all stand, we'll do the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Anyone from the public want to speak before we start? And if you'll remind me, I'll allow you to speak later if you'd like when we get to certain topics. Anybody? Okay. Ms. Shane, you have the floor, ma'am.
Well,
Mr. Bowley?
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bowley.
Okay.
And I'll be very brief.
Thank you very much.
A while back, I brought to you the first go-round of the sports market analysis, and then you had the question of when can the consultant come back with an analysis. So they have spent their time to do that. I'm going to have Rod Cashier from Tetra Tech, who everybody's fairly familiar with. Been doing a lot of work for the city over the years. And Joseph Furr from Louisiana, who is the sports marketing consultant. So without further ado, I'll get out of their way.
Thank you. I've got my colleague Eric Ingeman on speakerphone here. He was on a flight with me this morning that was canceled because they didn't have enough gas or enough pilots at 7:30 in the morning on Monday morning. So luckily I was able to get another flight to get here, but there wasn't enough spaces for both of us. So Eric is with us. He is actually our consultant. I'm a landscape architect. We really specialize in parks, recreation, and sports work. It's about 85–90% of what we do is in the public realm, or it's in the athletic facilities realm. Eric is executive director of the East Baton Rouge Parish Sports Commission, which is an entity in East Baton Rouge Parish whose sole responsibility is for organizing, facilitating, and supporting and promoting athletic events that really go toward this whole idea of sports tourism and economic development through sports. So we're going to kind of talk about a lot of things today. Some of it's about recreation, some of it's about sports tourism, some of it's about you and kind of what we want to do. We're kind of about halfway through our process, so these are typically kind of organic projects. They move around a little bit as we get to know you and get to know your sites, and so just to get started and tell you what we're really about, what the project's really about. It's about Daytona first, Deltona, not Daytona. That's the first time. But your kids, your seniors, your parents, your families, whatever we do here, it's for the city. It's for the people of the city, people that are paying tax dollars. So we want to benefit them, and that's an important part. Sports tourism, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the general trends in sports tourism, this industry, Deltona's current placement in that market as well, and then the best niche in terms of sports tourism. By that we mean what's going to be the easiest and the best and the most effective way for you to get into the sports tourism market. And then we're going to talk about the city center. What does it need to be? What does it need to do? Kind of. I think there's some ideas, but maybe hadn't been crystallized about that. Who can it attract? And then we're going to come up with some ideas of how we can pull all these things together to make it all happen. How do we make a win-win scenario? That's really what we want to do. We want 3 wins, not 2, and we want to 2, not 1. So, in order for us to really assess the sports tourism side of things, we really have to look at your parks. We have to look at your recreation department. We have to look at the programs, the facilities, and we're going to look at the quality, or we have looked at the quality of your parks, the quality of your facilities. We've looked at the capacity. We also need to look at the programs, which programs are thriving. Typically, we find that in communities where one type of program, say soccer or baseball or softball, thrives, there's typically better facilities in that program, and typically more people get behind that, so it's easier to do things with those particular programs, as well as having the facilities to go along with it. And really, we want to kind of grow this from what the city does well, rather than from what outside people, or what we might think outside people want, because naturally, if you're going to get into the sports tourism business, you're going to be better at doing something that you like as a city, and you have people that understand it. So that's an important aspect. We looked at your parks. These are all your parks throughout town. The locations and so you've got some really nice stuff. And we kind of analyzed that from the standpoint of what does it do for you, for your recreation, but also what does it do in the sports tourism market. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at how it relates to city center, because the whole scope of the project is to figure out what we can do with this part of town that we're trying to create a really kind of a downtown or a center of the town. Won't really be a downtown, but kind of the center of the city, and how it can start to develop as something different maybe than just residential. Also, your schools. Your schools are very important. Schools have recreational facilities. A lot of times those facilities go unused a lot of the time. So whenever, from a recreation standpoint, when we can use those facilities in times when they're not being used, we can then kind of leverage those facilities and make them more usable. It's all the same tax dollars that are paying both for the parks and the schools. So why should we have fields or space that goes unused during the summer or other times? We just want to be efficient in how we promote it. Another thing that we looked at is kind of your major circulation. I think when we're looking at a town and how we might approach facilities, how we might approach doing a tournament, how we might approach recreation, the ability to get from one part of town to the other is important. And you've got some really nice. You got Howland up north, and then the trails in Doyle down south. But Saxton and Providence are two nice connectors that really go all the way through town, and that's important if we have an event where people are coming in from out of town and they may be at 2 or 3 different sites. For them to be able to easily get to those sites is very important. It's also important in terms of your citizens to be able to get back and forth. Or wouldn't it be nice to be able to ride, for a kid to ride their bike to soccer practice rather than have to put them in the suburban and bring them there. So these are just a few of the analysis sheets. We've looked at most of the bigger parks, or all of the bigger parks, relative to the facilities and sports tourism, and that'll all be in the final report. But we don't really have time to go through them all. But I do want to talk about Dewey Brewster. It's kind of in terms of the market in sports tourism, it's a leg up. It's your best facility. You got 8 or 9 very, very high quality, well-maintained soccer fields. You've got a thriving soccer program. You've already got some outside programs, professional college teams using those facilities from time to time. So it's a natural to build on. There's not a whole lot of space left there, but that doesn't mean that it's still not a positive thing. One of the things about it, it's got kind of a festival center in the middle, which may be not the best thing to go along with soccer fields, to have 4th of July and 10,000 people on the soccer fields. Steve may have a little issue, but it is a good community space, and it is something that we think is really positive to look at as kind of a model of what we might want to build on. I think this is really important. You got 25,000 kids in a population of 90,000, so you got a lot of kids. You also have other recreational needs beside the kids. Most of the time when we as recreation consultants come in and talk to a group, it's usually about youth baseball or youth softball or youth soccer or kids sports. But recreation is about everybody. It's about seniors, it's about families, it's about kids that don't play organized sports. We've done extreme sports parks, we've done passive parks, we've done downtown event centers that are just gathering, they're urban parks. So as landscape architects, we've designed a lot of these things, but we always want to be inclusive with what we do. It's everybody's tax dollars to build these things, so everybody should get the most out of them. You as commissioners get more satisfaction to your constituents too when you're solving problems and providing things for the community, which is what public recreation really should be about. Now, there certainly is a trend in communities developing this sport tourism market, and we want to start right off with some pitfalls that you need to know about, because there are dollars to be made in the industry. And one of the pitfalls is sometimes there's a perception that the facilities that are being built for these tournaments are not for the public who are paying the taxes. Sometimes they're not actually paying for them, but if you build a big facility and you're not, and the public thinks that they're using their tax dollars and then their kids can't play there, that can be a little bit of an issue. We don't like that model, and some people do that. There's also some overbuilding that goes on. A lot of communities are investing in big, huge standalone facilities that's trying to create a venue where the venue is the attraction. We feel like that the facility is an attraction, but we really think that it's the promotion of the facility and the running of the events that are the most important things, particularly in a city of your size and the place in the market that you're going to be. So that can be big, and it can equate to a really poor return on investment. And then the other thing, and if Eric were here, he may speak some later from the speakerphone. He would be all over this. Building but not promoting is another thing that happens. So if you're going to get into the sports tourism market, then you've got to promote it. You don't necessarily have to build new to promote, and you don't necessarily have to build big to promote. If you can consolidate and coordinate facilities and promote them, you can be very successful. Baton Rouge Sports Foundation doesn't build anything. They don't own anything. They only promote tournaments. So that's something that you guys need to be thinking about in terms of your model. In recent years, there's been many communities that are building these big, huge, $25, $30 million sports complexes. Sometimes they're way overbuilt architecturally. Sometimes I can look at one and tell whether an engineer, an architect, or a landscape architect designed it by the way it looks. The buildings are really nice, an architect did it. If it's more parky, a landscape architect may have done it. But a lot of times there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of things are invested in these parks to create that venue, thinking that that's going to be the attraction, and you can overspend. So we think the ROI on those is not quite what they may think it's going to be, and the jury's certainly still out, and we'll talk about some of those here in a minute. As planners, landscape architects, designers, and as a team, our philosophy is that we really want to build for the public's recreation, but we want to keep that sports tourism possibility in mind. That's the win-win. That's the first of the two wins is to be able to plan to build good recreation, build great parks, design and build great parks. People want to be in great parks, and it goes beyond when we start looking at building parks. And I use the word parks as opposed to facilities. There's more than just the sports tourism side to it. There's the quality of life side to it. So a sports tourism event may bring people into town for the weekend, and there are dollars to be made there. But higher quality parks and better quality of life may bring people to retire here, or may bring people to move here because they want to be part of the community. Parks are very, very important in terms of economic development as well. And the other thing is you want to be able to partner well. Partner well with your school system, partner well with neighboring communities potentially, and maybe even partner well with some more regional groups to help promote your facilities. And that's what we're trying to do. Those are the three things that we really want to tie together. Connectivity is something that we always look at, and it's not necessarily part of the scope, but it's very important. You've got the potential right now. You've got existing trails that go up into the county along the south part of the city. There's a very easy potential, some really nice corridor ability along Howland and Providence. We know they're both county roads, but still there's the ability, there's space there, and there's the connectivity that we're talking about. And I'm talking about walking, biking, running trails. I think that's an important thing for quality of life. It also has a place in our sports tourism niche. You've also got some other easy access corridors down power rights of way and through other parts of town to be able to get down roads, to be able to get up. And really what all this is looking at is maybe a tie. There's a very easy tie up here between the community center and Deltona High School. And so what we really want to do is how do we relate this connectivity from the southern part of town all the way up into the city center, and how do we tie maybe the community center or city center to the major high school up there very easily from a pedestrian standpoint. But you can see these connections go throughout the community, but they all do go to city center. So going back to that idea of being able to, has anybody ever seen the movie Sandlot? Best scene in the movie is when they ride their bikes to the 4th of July, deal. Wouldn't that be great for the kids to be able to ride their bikes to the 4th of July and then come back and play ball later? So that's the kind of, that's America, right?
30 years ago.
So our general observations about your facilities and recreation is that you've got a lot of kids. You got great participation. You got strong programs in youth soccer, football, baseball, in those facilities to go along with it. Soccer facilities are the highest quality and lend themselves best to a larger tournament venue. They could be more, but you can have a reasonably good-sized tournament at your venue now. We really want to get the bigger ones, so we need more. But you also need more soccer or rectilinear fields for your recreation program. Baseball facilities are very well maintained. They're not configured real well to be in the tournament market. You don't have the right field sizes. You don't have that critical mass of groupings of fields together at the right sizes. So while we think they're good for your recreation level, and there may be a need for some more baseball fields there, for recreation, you're not really positioned real well to move into baseball and softball with what you got. There's really lacking many indoor recreation facilities. There's one gym that's a half-size gym, but there's no area where you could have a basketball tournament or volleyball tournaments, or even really basketball or volleyball leagues, or cheer events, or dance competitions, something like that. So, and there's no indoor swimming as well, and there's really, other than the Y, there's no public aquatic facility. Track and field, you got tracks in your schools, but again, they seem to be just for the schools. They're not really part of your recreational opportunities. And I think that's a potential that we can look at. And then the tennis facilities, we kind of say they're average. It's not so much that they're run down or anything. They're not really configured in a way that would be really conducive to large tennis events. But they're a good start. I don't think you got quite enough to pull in some of the bigger tournaments, but I think that's another market that we could look at. And it also is another thing that could service a wide range of different uses from a recreational standpoint. The trail system, I think, is really the thing that we saw. Soccer fields and the potential for this connectivity to be able to have a very nice system of trails through the city that would really feed in from all these neighborhoods. Really a great potential, both from recreation as well as a tourism standpoint. So I'm going to talk a little bit, and this is Eric's part of the presentation, so he may speak up if I say something wrong, but most of the events that we're talking about, these are just general trends. I just want to kind of tell you a little bit about the industry. But the general trends, so most of the events that we're looking at are participation-based events. In other words, we're after the participants to come to town rather than after the spectators. If we bring a game to town, we may bring some spectators, but those people are going to come and stay. Whereas if we bring, come and stay for the event and go home. If we bring a lot of participants, and we're talking about primarily youth, but also adults and seniors. If we're talking about that, then those people travel and they spend the night and they spend more. They spend more money in the restaurants. They spend more money in hotels. So, sports tourism that we're talking about is really about these larger youth tournaments or tournament traveling things, and it's the participants that we want, not necessarily the spectators. So that's an important thing. And it's different, as I said, than other events. The impact from the economic standpoint starts with the overnight stay. So more people you can get to come to town and stay overnight, more stuff. A few stats. In 2014, the Florida State Sports Foundation estimated 13.3 million visitors came to the state. 2,500 events, over 3.1 million people came as sports tourists. Right now, as we said, communities all over are spending significant dollars. They're investing in facilities, and they're investing in efforts to promote those facilities. So the market is competitive. So finding the niche, as we've been talking about, is very important, and I think you guys are very intuitive to be looking at what you need to do rather than what I've seen and Eric has seen. Some communities say, well, so and so has one, and they're having tournaments. We need one, and so I think you need to build what's right for you and find the right niche in the market. I think that's very important. And I think the CVBs, the Commissioner of Visitors Bureaus, and sports commissions are very, very important because they are the ones that solicit the tournaments, bid on them, develop homegrown events, and do the types of things that get these tournaments and these people to come. And sports commissions is one way to do it. That's what Baton Rouge Sports Commission does. And this is just some other stats in 2015. $9.45 billion was spent in the sports tourism industry. That's by the National Association of Sports Commissions, and that's up from only 8.96 in 2014. So, a lot of times the Sports Commission is in the CVB office or part of it, and generally they have three facets that they work in: bidding for projects. There are USSSA, Babe Ruth, different organizations that have events, and they want to have their regional tournament or their state tournament or even their national tournament, and they'll actually put out a request for proposals and you bid on it. So that, the promoting entity would find those events and respond to those RFPs and make the deals come. There's also supporting existing events. So you may have some, the existing soccer may have some events that they may want to grow. There may be some other events that are local, that are existing, that they can help to promote, help bring people in from farther and more people. And then also they help to grow some homegrown events. Sometimes it's a festival with a race attached to it, or it's a new type of tournament. So those are all things that kind of do, but mostly they do bidding because there's a lot of these tournaments, a lot of people, as you see, traveling around the country for these things, so that you bid on them and try to get them. And the other thing that is important is that particularly when you're looking at trying to bring them in, is how do you fill those times when your facilities are not being used by yourself as much. So being here, more southern oriented, you may have the ability to attract some northern, college teams down here in times of year when you're not using it, where you'll still be warm. It might be winter up there. So those are the types of things that you can look for in terms of trying to use your facilities when it's a natural downtime. And another thing that's going on in Central Florida is really they have a group that is that are investing, that they're the Central Florida Sports Authority, I think is what it's called, that they're investing in kind of promoting the community. Something you guys might want to look in and try to get involved in. There's 29 separate entities that are represented in the state of Florida that are doing this kind. So how is a sports commission funded? Typically, it's some type of tax that helps pay for the efforts to promote it. OPM is what we like to call. That's other people's money. It's better if we have an entity who is going to promote bringing tourists in. If we can get the tourists that come in specifically to pay their freight. So these tourists come in, that's other people's money. That's not your taxpayers' dollars. And that's where you get into the idea of, how does the money come into the economy? How is it spent going out? So, but also somebody needs to be there there needs to be a way to fund the entity that brings the tournaments in and promotes them. A lot of times that's a 2 to 5% hotel motel tax. We do need to talk. You guys don't have a whole lot of hotels, in town. Yeah, and so, that's gonna.
I don't even know if it called one.
You could build facilities and promote tournaments, and the surrounding areas could benefit from that. So there's some things that are going on with the CVB and how they're promoted and how the bed tax, the county hotel motel tax is split. So we may have to do some work there to try to get more of it. But there's a solution there. I don't know what it is, and I think that maybe is another part or maybe a different project. But you need to know that sports tourism is about the hotels and the restaurants, and so in order for you really to benefit from that, then you got to come up with a way to get those here, and to leverage the people that come in. Also, sometimes there'll be a food and beverage tax. Now that's not totally OPM, but it's sort of, because if you do have a lot of tournaments, they're usually eating in your restaurants. So they're paying it too. So that's another way. And then there are other ways typically to fund it. But again, generally public recreation facilities are funded with some type of property tax or sales tax or some type of millage. And so you've got to be careful that those dedicated taxes, that people that are paying those taxes feel like they're getting their dollars worth. So that's why you need to build facilities that make them happy as well, and then make the sports tourism be the second benefit of that. And then the sports commissions, they also can generate enough funding to put money back into the economy. I think Baton Rouge Area Sports Foundation is responsible for about $29 million, I think, a year in economic impact. So how do you figure that economic impact? This is a formula that's used kind of nationally. So you take the number of competitors or visitors or competitors in a sport, you multiply it by the travel multiplier for each sport, you multiply that by the number of days of the tournaments, and then you multiply that by $140. That's what, on average, a person is going to spend. That's per person. That's on average on a trip. That's what they're going to spend in your community if they stay here for a full day. So when we talk about those impacts, the length of the event is important. The more days they stay, the more hotels, because that's where they spend the bulk of their dollars. But also the more meals they eat, the more shoelaces or whatever they forgot at home they find in your stores and so forth. And the groups differ. Different groups travel in different ratios. We'll talk a little bit about that more. But a 2 to 3 day competition, kind of a Friday to Sunday or a Thursday to Sunday event is kind of a good typical thing. But then there are also longer events that can last for a week or sometimes 2, and maybe teams moving in and out. But those events can bring in a lot of people over a longer period of time. And that's usually a state tournament or maybe even a national, regional tournament, something like that. Just in general, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, tennis, these are kind of the top tier. They're traveling 4 to 5 to 1. So, a 12-year-old, U12 soccer player comes. They're going to come with mom, dad, probably a sister or two, sister or brother or two, maybe grandmother, maybe grandmother and grandfather, maybe both. Girls fast pitch softball seems to travel even, they're up to 4.5. So there are some that travel more. We're looking at youth sports as they get older. They tend to not travel as much with the siblings. So the youth sports are really kind of the ones that are the prime market. You have some tier down. There's bowling, BMX, wrestling, rugby. They don't travel quite as well, in terms of numbers. And there are reasons for it we don't need to really get into, but that's like a 3 to run, and then track and field and some of the other, basketball, it's even lower than that. And these are just stats. I mean, we don't need to talk about the reasons, but this is just kind of in general what we're looking for. But don't forget about the seniors. There are a lot of seniors that are ancient athletes, as they call them, that are traveling and they're doing endurance sports, or they're playing adult soccer or whatever. And they still travel, Now, they don't travel with as many people, but they tend to spend more money because, you know,
They got it.
250-year-old guys are probably going to.
You take your water back because you said ancient athletes. They have to make room for the walkers and
Wheelchair parking.
I consider myself an
Handicap
ancient
space.
athlete, by the way. But they, you know, they're not going to spend. They're going to get 2 hotel rooms. 2 guys are going to get 2 hotel rooms. They're not going to bunk, you know, 4 up in a hotel room. So, and they're going to probably eat a little nicer, and they're probably going to buy, you know,
Alcohol.
an alcoholic beverage. So,
Just saying.
yeah. So you know, they can, you know, they can be, even though the ratio is not as good, they can do it. So this is just an example. A 3-day U8, U17 soccer tournament with 60 teams. You could host this at your facility easy right now. That's 1,080 players times 4 is 4,320 times 3 days is 12,690 times $140 a day. That's $1.8144 million in a 3-day period. That's the dollars that are spent in you know, in your city. That's how you figure it out. And you can do a lot of those. You can do a lot of those events. I mean, you can do something every weekend if you really have a good thriving system and you're really promoting them. So that's what we're talking about. We're looking forward to. So this is you. Okay, this is where you are. You're very well located. You can, you know, right on I-4, you can get all the way to the bottom of the state. You can reach over to the Panhandle. This is a 350-mile radius, about a 4.5-hour drive. That's what typically people will drive to a tournament. So, you know, we call it drive-in. You could probably, you know, in some cases reach up almost to Atlanta, but, you know, you're over into the Panhandle, up in southern South Carolina and in the middle of Georgia, where people can just drive in, and they'll drive in for a tournament, you know, Friday afternoon and leave Sunday. So you've got, you know, you've got a good draw. You've also got a beach, which is good because sometimes the little sister or the little brother doesn't want to go to the soccer tournament anymore, but if he can get to go to the beach, he can do that. And then you always have the possibility they can stay a week later and go down south to see the mouse. But that's not what we're really looking for. You know, in this you know, it's a different type of thing. People that are coming to these are coming for a different reason. So, looking at a little bit more closely, and you know, the Central Florida Sports Commission represents Orlando, Orange County, Seminole County, Lake County, and Osceola County. They are actively promoting sports tourism in your area right now, and you guys are not part of that. There is some competition. This is the big one, which is really not your competition. That's the Wild Water Sports down at Orlando. We don't feel like that is really competes with you, or you don't compete with them. They're fly-in, stay, play, stay for the week, and go to the theme parks. They're promoting more than just the sports tourism. They're promoting Disney. That's a different, and usually a team that goes there has won something. They've won a World Series. They won a state. You know, they're kind of invited to go to. They don't even have that many fields, really, comparatively. So but they're there, and you know, they're doing it, but they're promoting it. You've got the Seminole County Sports Complex, which is just opened. You've got Smyrna Beach Sports Complex and Ormond Beach. These are just 3 that we're looking at, and we're looking into more. And then I'm going to get into those a little more specifically. I wanted to bring this slide up just to talk real quick. This is Foley, Alabama. Foley is in the Panhandle of Florida, right at the edge of the Panhandle of Florida. Pensacola is here. Foley's a little town, about halfway between I-10 and the beaches, the Gulf Shores. They've invested a tremendous amount of money in a huge sports complex, and they really have that in an outlet mall, but they have the beach, and so they've invested this money, and they're promoting it very, very, you know, heavily. And they use the beach as a draw. You guys can do that, and it's a pretty nice model because there is something to do, you know, other than just go to the tournaments. Because keep in mind, some of these traveling teams travel 3 weekends a month, and usually it's kind of the same old grind. So if there's something that you can promote, you know, with the county or promote that helps. And I think, you know, the beaches. And so it's almost the same distance between that sports complex and their beaches and anything that you might build. So that's something just to think about. I think it's good to talk about. So, but your real competition, Seminole County has got baseball taken care of. I think that they have spent a tremendous amount of money on all these baseball and softball fields. A lot of them are artificial turf. It's a very, very beautiful facility, and they're going to promote it very, very hard because they're going to have to, because it was very expensive, and they're going to be bringing tournaments in. This is one of those standalone facilities, and I don't know if, you know, I'm not saying it's going to not be successful, but we don't know. But what I can tell you is it's going to be more successful at baseball than it is at anything else, because that's what it's oriented toward. They do plan to promote soccer and other rectilinear field tournaments, but they don't have any rectilinear fields, so they'll play in the outfield. Some of these fields are artificial turf, and it's very, very hot in the summer when a lot of these things are being so they're going to compete, we think, very well against you in terms of baseball, but not so much with soccer and flag football and the rectilinear sports, because this is really for baseball. New Smyrna Beach is baseball oriented. You can see they've got about 8 baseball fields. They do have a few rectilinear fields. I think they got 5 plus 1 football field. They do have a track. This looks like a kind of a model that is pretty good, because it looks like it's for recreation, but you can tell it's been built so that they can do some tournaments. I think it's heavier on baseball, and I think it's going to compete pretty well with baseball, you know, because of the facilities and the makeup of it. But it's going to have a little bit of soccer there. It doesn't really have, you know, a whole lot. So it's not going to be a huge soccer or rectilinear sport venue. And then Ormond Beach has more baseball and looks like high quality. They've got more of the rectilinear fields. Still don't have as many as you might want in you know, to be able to have a huge tournament. But it appears to us that the baseball market is really pretty saturated. The soccer and other rectilinear fields market is much more open, and we feel like, because you've already got a very nice facility and you've already got some inroads into that with some of the things that you're doing with your programs and others, that's a natural thing. So we have come up with a preliminary sports niche for you guys, and I'm going to go through this real quick. And I'm trying to get through this as quickly as I can. We think, number one, rectilinear field sports is very important. That's what we ought to be. That's the lowest hanging fruit, soccer, rugby, and then there's 2-tier sports like Australian football, ultimate frisbee, and Quidditch. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Quidditch, but you know, a lot of college kids play that, high school play that. It's fun. Connectivity, developing the trails. So what do we do with those? Endurance sports, swim, run, bike, running clubs, coming in on Thursday night for runs for all over. Cross-country, high school and colleges, if you had a nice cross-country path that you could develop, that's something that can work. So that's the tennis. We think developing more on the tennis, you could get some tournaments and league play. Again, Thursday night, Friday night things, weekend deals where that might be some of the senior, more the adult stuff. And then an entertainment venue. A lot of times we talk about this, but it's not necessarily sports, it's recreation, where there's a summer concert series, a fall concert series, and people come in, they come in and spend money for those deals. And so the ability to do that, as well as to be able to have an event with a triathlon, or an event with a soccer tournament, or an event with some other kind of tournament. So being able to do that. And that also kind of gives you a little bit of stuff to build around maybe in that city center. And then indoor recreation, basketball, volleyball, cheer, you know, those types of things that you know, there's not, you're not doing it now, but we think that is kind of one of your niches. So we'll talk about that together a little bit more. I want to talk some about City Center right now. The first thing is the community center site being developed kind of back off the street, which is not a bad thing. You know, it's kind of a good thing because it pulls it back. And so we've got this big area that we really want to try to affect a better model of development you know, for the city. And we want more commercial, and we also have some things that are going on out here at the activity center with the new hospital site and Halifax Crossing, that new PUD that's being developed. Well, when we start to look at it and developing a commercial corridor from a planning standpoint, you really have to kind of set back 400 feet off Howland, because that's going to be a commercial frontage. For recreation, that's going to be too pricey for land. And so we look at that in terms of, okay, we take that off the top and then we start to look at some of the surrounding properties. And we know you've looked at some of those, and we'll talk some more about that. But we got to keep in mind that the successful sports tourism side of things means that you have to bring in a lot of participants. So you need a lot of square footage of space. If we were looking at trying to do a standalone facility, and when we first started talking about this project, that's kind of what I thought y'all were thinking about, but it's not, which is good, but in order to do that, you got to have 80 to 150 acres to do a big, 20 field complex or something like that and have it all in one site. So that's 80 acres, that roughly what 80 acres would take. That's roughly what 150 acres would take. So that's pretty tough. That's a pretty tough thing to put together 2 or 3 different landowners and that much land, and of course some of it's more valuable than others and all that. So we think that in terms of city center, that's probably not really doable. But we do think that we can capitalize on it through sports and recreation in terms of this area, and because the cost of this land is probably going to be more. We need to be thinking about maybe keeping back from the frontage, and then also doing something that is a little bit more multi-purpose, but always is thinking about supporting the sports tourism market as well as recreation. The participants will come. They don't have to come and go to one facility. So you can, Baton Rouge does this, lots of cities do this. They will bring people in, and a large tournament may be in 4 different sites. The U10s through 12s play here, the 13s through 15s play here, and the others play there, and they move them around. And I've personally been to different events with my children where we've been at schools, we've been at parks. One time we were in a place that I think it was about to be a parking lot, but they just hadn't paved it yet. It was pretty bad. But they still had the tournament there. So you don't want to be promoting something where you don't have good fields, but having them in different locations, people will still come stay here. They will still spend dollars here, and you can promote that tournament pretty well, or very well. So it's critical to build right, and by that we mean what's right for Deltona, and that's really what is important. We want to build on what you have, and we really want to build for the market. So we're thinking about what you've got, what you're going to develop best, what's easiest, but we always want to think about how do we turn that into part of the sports marketing niche. So I know there's been some talk about a stadium, and so I kind of wanted to look at first these areas that we're kind of looking at for potential property. You've got pretty good connectivity from the community center into the properties up at the top. You got across Howland for those, and then you've got better access, maybe down here. But none of these are deal killers. I think all these, especially looking at the map, look like good potential vacant land in the area that you could develop. In terms of what to develop there, looking at a stadium, if we were to do a stadium kind of as part of a centralized park, multi-purpose stadium, you could do youth and high school football there. You could mark it as a showcase field for your tournaments. You could partner and host other events with the school board. Maybe get some state events there for track and stuff. You could also get some college pro soccer teams. There's some things you can do with a stadium. However, most of what we put up there is not really what we're looking for in terms of the sports tourism market, because those are the spectator-based events. Those are one-time events, and they're not bringing in multiple teams. So they would have some impact, and down the line it may be a good thing. But I don't know that we don't really feel like that is the highest priority for you. I think we can do some other things that will serve the recreation better, and be for your public recreation, as well as fit the niche of the sports tourism, as well as kind of diversify your opportunities. So again, we want to build what's right for Deltona. That's what's important. build on what you have, and find that synergy. So we believe that a facility that is kind of a multi-purpose facility that would potentially have an indoor facility that might have gymnasiums and other fitness type stuff could coexist very well with the community center. And outside of that, we could see maybe some additional tennis facilities and some fields, but not 10 or 12, maybe 4 fields or so because of the space that you've got. We add those 4 to the 8 or 9 that you've got, and some of the other things that we start to leverage when some of the school sites, you've got a critical mass of rectilinear fields, but everything could be centered around something that could be developed really at the center. So this could be traditional sports for your public recreation as well as the market. You're always going to keep the sports tourism market in mind. It could be a venue for passive recreation. It could be. I mean, they even have bocce tournaments and croquet tournaments and washers. So people travel for these things. But there's also the ability just to have a place where people may go with their families and throw washers and do so. It's a little community park, just a nice washers and stuff, or bean bags. There's another name for that I don't like. But, and then indoor and outdoor recreation. So a facility that services that is important. To think about, and then entertainment. You can focus all this around maybe a small bandstand or amphitheater and great lawn. Sometimes those great lawns can even be used for soccer fields. And that just becomes kind of a recreation center for the community, but then you can promote and utilize that as the beginnings or kind of the middle or the center of your sports tourism venue. So what would that maybe look like? So we got to take away the 400 feet, right? And then we got to look at possibly connecting some of the community center with maybe if we were going to connect it, up here to Howland to get 2 entrances. This is just a very quick site plan. That's probably 3 gyms and a fitness center and some offices and some other things in this building here. That's what 12 tennis courts, a great lawn, and 4 soccer fields. That's kind of how it fits. It's not 80 acres. It's probably more like 25 or 30. And it kind of starts to do that use. You can see how it can fit here. In this particular case, you're a little closer to the community center, so you start to have a relationship, maybe some shared parking and so forth. And this is not necessarily the best site plan or the best site or the actual numbers of anything that we want. These are just the very conceptual ideas. You potentially put it over here where you could circulate through. And then you have tennis and soccer here, and then you could definitely share parking here and maybe utilize some of the resulting space down here. I even got this crazy idea when I was falling asleep the other night. Got this great dry retention pond. Well, maybe that can become a skate park, and you actually use the skate park as your retention. And the only time you can't skate in is when it rained. I mean, be creative with what you got. I mean, you got a big hole in the ground because you got to take care of your stormwater. So we are always trying to think. A lot of times people look like, you really said that in a meeting, but yes, if you don't think about those ideas, you don't think about those possibilities, you will let things go. So that could be another thing that would be another completely. If you had a large enough skate park, you could get an action sport event here. We did one of these in Baton Rouge where they have pros come in and we have BMX and all that. So there are different things you can do maybe in this community park. There could be trails, there could be croquet lawns and bocce pits and all kind of things. So that's just the idea of what could happen. I think a really important thing to think about too, and we want to talk about partnerships, and I think that's kind of the next phase of the work is how we make it work. How do we tie this in to other aspects? This is one possibility. I think is a strong possibility if we can work it out. Is to look at increasing Red Fox Road, and making that a real pedestrian and vehicular promenade where you can tie from the community center right down to Deltona High School and the YMCA. So you've got some resources right there that you could walk between. You could have a tournament and people could walk from one to the other. You could have trolleys going back and forth, or golf course, so you can very, very well, and look at how many soccer fields you can get in there, recreational fields you can get in there. If you just coordinate with the school and come up with a joint use, joint maintenance, and you work those things out, then you're not necessarily having to buy additional property, because you put 10 fields like this, that's 30 or 40 acres that somewhere you have to buy. If you already got that is on the public dollar, then perhaps you can make that work. So that's my last slide, other than saying that, well, I had one more thing. This is actually the stormwater treatment plant, so we can use that treated water for the irrigation there, as well as we can probably get that water all the way over here. So it's another important thing. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got a bunch. And the first thing is you touched on it very, very sparingly. Moral of the story is, Deltona, we don't have enough fields for our community. I don't care about sports tourism now. Our community, we don't have enough fields.
Right.
Okay? And that's the first and foremost thing that people always lose track of. When you have 25,000 kids under the age of 19, and you have, you can even go down to the senior field, which we have one senior field. They complain that there's not enough fields or whatever. So the theory behind, well, my theory is, whatever you build for your community first, but you build it with the down the plan. Hey, if they want to run tournaments here, we have a facility that can do it.
That's right.
The problem with what you just drew up, okay, is Deltona High School, where you're trying to draw those things. First of all, there's a big FFA program there. Second of all, there's no the parking at Deltona High is horrendous. Third of all, like you said, the school board just doesn't maintain fields like they should. And it would take the city, we keep talking level of service, it would take the city going in and fully maintaining these fields. But even that, you're looking at one game field on a football. The problem that we have in Deltona, you already hit the nail on the head. We have no full-size gym in the whole city, zero. Which means no volleyball, no basketball, like you said, no gymnastics. We have really no football field. We put goalposts on a soccer field, which the parking's horrendous. Anything at Dewey, the parking's horrendous. So although it's a beautiful facility, to me it was never designed right for what we wanted to do.
You have parking issues in several of your sites. You have some fields on several of your parks where there's not enough. You can practice there, but you can't have an event there because there's no place to park. So
right.
Parking is always in these complexes is always the thing that everybody wants fields, but then the more fields you build, the more parking you got to build. So because the more people you have to come.
Well, like I said, so you have no football,
yeah.
You have no basketball, no volleyball. You hit the nail on the head. We got some baseball, but even our baseball, the little league fields are very poor. They're poor, and I'm not blaming our Parks and Rec because I know the situation we got. But the little league fields are poor, and like you said, the ones right there in Dewey is just not set up. There's no quad theory, no where you can play a bunch of games at one time. There's no place in the city to host an event, so we get stuck doing it at Dewey. So the theory is, and I know when you say stadium, everyone goes right to the Citrus Bowl. That's not the stadium we're talking about here. We're talking about Sept and Martin in DeLand, a place where you can. There's places to sit. Right now, if you want to do, I was an athletic director. I rented all the fields at Deltona. It was miserable. There's no seating at Dewey. In order to keep fans off the field, you have to put up temporary fencing every single time. There's no real concession. There's no real place to keep gate to generate money revenue back in. So it's just one of those things that we have nothing for a community. And I always focus on the younger generation, but like you said, I'm sitting here, I'm 41. We have one softball field. Once again, we have no gymnasium because it's just not big enough.
Right.
So it's the same thing that we have nothing that the city needs. So we're talking about sports tourism. I'm saying, guys, look, I know sports tourism. If we ever built new stuff, you need to think down the road to possibly hold tournaments. But this city is completely underbuilt when it comes to facilities. Right now, we can't find a place for our Pop Warner football team, the West Village Wolves, because they're using Deltona. And Deltona doesn't want one there, which is a whole other issue. That's because they're wearing orange going to university. But we have a major concern and major problems. But I wish you focused more on the fact that this city, Deltona, the size of it, 90,000 people, we don't have proper facilities. Whether you're going to run games, tournaments, or just take care of your own community, we need to build fields.
Well, yeah. let me respond a little bit. You're exactly right, and that was the first thing we said, and that was kind of the first parts of the slides, is that if you don't build what you need for your community, you're missing out, okay? And so what we want to do is we want to build these parks, okay, and we want to provide the facilities that the kids need, and the everybody needs, you know, for you first, and we just want to make sure that we keep that, the sports tourism in mind. I think that the reason we focus on this, because that was really our scope, and our scope is kind of moving. I said at the beginning it's kind of organic, and this happens a lot when we come in, because everybody has a lot of different ideas and everybody knows where they want to be, but they just don't know how to get there. So that's what we usually do, is help them get there. The point of what I hope that you got out of the presentation, and hearing talk, maybe you didn't, maybe I failed, but what I hope you got out of the presentation is you need to build a lot of things for your community, and when you do, we need to make sure that we can use those as well from a sports tourism market. So we want to always have that in mind, but you're not going to be successful in that market if you don't first have the facilities, and you second don't have an entity to promote it. So if you're looking to get into the market, which I don't think is the first thing that you want to be doing, you're going to have that promoting entity, or that's not going to fail. But if you're really trying to build facilities for your kids and you don't successfully promote, then you really haven't failed, because you've met your goal, which is to build for the citizens. So where those are, you know, and that's another reason we don't think that you should have one consolidated deal, because having fields about town, you need to have a little bit of a critical mass in each place from a maintenance standpoint. You know, it's difficult to maintain one field, and you know, you're running around town they're trying to run around town trying to cut the grass and fertilize and all that. But you don't necessarily have to have 20 fields in one spot. That some of these people are doing, these tournament venues, that's what they're doing, and that's not, particularly when you get into the artificial turf and all that stuff. So that's a I understand exactly what you're saying, and we're not giving you answers to where or how today. We're just trying to assess where you are. Sorry.
Okay, and I think before we ask a bunch of questions, we get into a long discussion about it, I think there's we need to, as a commission, decide where we want to move, because I didn't hear anything exciting or new idea here, and I don't mean it as detrimental to what you have, you pointed it all out, but our first and foremost goal is taking care of the residents. And Nancy, and then mention, and I'll make my comments. But
Steve, did you share anything with him as far as, y'all remember a while ago we looked at that property that obviously somebody didn't like, that was down there by Discovery Elementary, as far as a sports complex. We had
122 acres?
122 acres. We set aside and designed it, had four baseball fields. Because, and I'd love to hear what you said, but it doesn't all have to be at one spot. Because there's other property down on the road that, it doesn't all have to be in one spot. It can be everywhere else. So I think we have some things we've already talked about at one point to put these fields and things in. And we need to look at some of this stuff.
okay. Remind me. Go ahead. Then I'll be next.
And what I got out of this, to those that want a stadium, but what I got out of this is the big money venue. If you're looking to make a money venue, lodging is out. We're not going to have lodging in Deltona. And that's where you make your money. Restaurants are out. We don't have restaurants in Deltona yet, so the hospital is built.
$1 million
And with a lunch crowd, we may get some restaurants. What I did get out of this, and what you did mention is, we have 23,000 kids. We have 20,899, 55 and over seniors. So we didn't concentrate much on what are we putting in there for the seniors. So we have almost as many seniors, 55 and over. But what I did get out of this is a gym. I agree we need a gym for doing indoor basketball. Fields for doing something besides soccer. We have great soccer fields. No football, lacrosse, rugby, soccer. Maybe another soccer field too, and track events. We have no trails, connected trails, and we don't have really a track field. You could do any kind of event setting. So you were talking about we need to concentrate on what we want to do. One of the things I think we can eliminate is it's not ready for a big stadium. A gymnasium, yes, with some fields connected, like they were showing up there, but it's not ready for a stadium.
All right, well, again, it goes back to
Doesn't
what,
support our residents.
it goes back to what Commissioner Sukup said. There's a difference of opinion, and you, of all people, brought in your Bass Pro Shops.
Yep.
Thing one day, and I know you did in jest, but that's really what we talked about, that we started with. You don't necessarily have to build a huge stadium like Citrus Bowl, but you build something like Deltona had things inside where it's recognized as an area. You can't do that on a small piece of property. And Deltona's infamous. Look what Dewey Gloucester. How many people do we turn away, Steve? Daily.
I think
We do not have a sufficient amount of green space. There's not even we haven't even had a circus in Deltona in 35, 40 years. We need a large tract of land that's, well, we have circus, yeah, we have our circus here. We spent an hour. But I think we need to do some serious discussion by us on exactly what we're doing. He's out here being paid to come by. We don't have a sports niche, is really what he said. We need to concentrate and take care of our residents. And I agree with you that indoor, when they originally built, we were not a city, when West Crown was built. I guess without being cruel, we kind of shortchanged on that building because of funds. When there wasn't enough funds available, instead of building it right and worrying about it, they just decided to shorten it and build it smaller, and it never was what it should have been. But I think we need to look at a larger tract of land, put some fields in, and be able to split up some of this on the opposite end of the city and provide them. He puts up a field out there with maybe screw. They've got the experience to handle big areas where we can do things. But on that same, let's be honest about it. I mean, we've talked about it. It's not a secret. You got a football field there that's got some stands, but if you kick a field goal, it goes in the concession stand. I mean,
Or the woods.
Or the woods. I mean, there was no thought of that when we built that. We figured we would never fill it. You know that. I mean, back in the old days, we never thought that park would ever be what it is today. So we have to look bigger, and we have to get a bigger facility. We've learned by our mistakes, if we will, more parking that. But I think that facility could, the hallmark or the keystone of that could be the indoor stadium. Get the land, not stadium, I'm sorry, the indoor facility, which can be used for all those things you're talking, basketball, volleyball, all those things that can be done in there. Like a normal high school gym, except, have a couple things there. And that would be a goal, something to look at. I don't believe from presentation, there's any, 7-Eleven would sell a whole lot of those little cans where you can put a beer in a plastic paper sack. No restaurants, there's no real bars, things like that, so I want to hear from them, so you can get direction on how to go. It's not that we don't want to promote it, but you can't promote it until you have the facility. All the talk about the CVB and tourist development money, I serve on that, and the chances of this city getting 30 cents out of the tourist tax money is almost, I would say it's probably not even worth the energy to write the letter or ask it publicly at a meeting. I've got a meeting coming up next month. I don't believe you're going to get all of that money goes right into the Ocean Center.
Well, what do we generate?
Pardon me?
What do we generate?
Well,
with
that's
that?
what I'm saying. We don't
Generate.
generate. So
Don't get it together.
why would they give
Generate
us
nothing,
any? We
so
don't have
exactly.
hotels. So I mean, there's nothing to do. There's no way to get it in that funding. So.
One thing,
how long?
could I just about that point, when I bring that up, I mean, those are the facts, that's where the money is, but there's also the whole idea of the city center, and what can we do there that will, because there will be private investment in that area, and so if we plan correctly and get the right type of development there, either from a regulatory standpoint or from a tax incentive standpoint, or just from a market standpoint. In other words, if we do have the thoughts and it's out there that you are going to be doing these things that are going to, where hotels would come, the hospital is going to be a draw for that type of thing as well. I think that down the line will come. And so what my point would be is that we need to be prepared for that so we can capitalize on it. But that's getting into the tournament business right now is not going to be really lucrative to you, but you ought to think about it as you build your recreation facilities for the community so that later you can capitalize on it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Will this PowerPoint that was up tonight be put on?
Paper.
You know, I wish I would have had this
Hard
ahead of
copy,
time, to tell you the truth. It was very difficult to read. You know, when you talked about, our own facilities and the analysis, I couldn't read any of it. So I would love to have the opportunity. I'm sorry that we weren't able to, come prepared to offer informed opinions because we hadn't seen this prior. One of the things that was talked about on the agenda was, and this was addressed a little, but identifying facilities to address the existing local needs. Is that going to be the next part where you actually drill down into our facilities rather, and I know there's a need for additional, but to see if we can expand on the facilities that already exist in our community?
That originally there was more of that in the scope originally, and then the scope was changed to focus more on the niche and city center and so forth. But we certainly can do that. I have to, we've got to look at what, is actually in our contract right now. I will say I think this is the beginning of what really needs to be a thorough and complete long-range development plan for your park system. It's what and when we do those, which we've done a lot of, typically we want to have more input from the public, and we want to have more input from the users, outside, organized users like the soccer clubs or those people as to what they need, because your best plans are going to come out of an open planning process. And so we weren't really doing that because we were really kind of assessing what you had and how that related to what it could do for city center as well as what it could do for the sports tourism niche. And I think our presentation is that those are maybe secondary to, but we're not making decisions as to what to do with the parks right now, and we're doing a little of that in what we're under contract to do right now. But I think there's more of that work that needs to be done.
I do apologize. I thought that was part of your contract,
It
was
is
to
part.
identify.
It's part of it, but
Well, and to kind of give us, your informed opinion as experts in the field as to how, what our fields look like and how they can be addressed. Because I think, if any of us are hearing that we have a sports tourism niche, I'm not sure what discussion you're a part of tonight. We are certainly not ready for that. I will respectfully disagree. A wide world of sports is definitely a competitor. Our children, I had a daughter that played volleyball team, sport travel, and they traveled to Wide World all the time to participate in events, cheerleading, softball in particular, volleyball. I'm sure you've been there. It's constantly packed. You can't get in.
what I would maybe I should rephrase. It's going to be very difficult for you to compete with them.
Right. Oh, I thought you had said that they're not competition, because they absolutely are competition.
I think they are competition, but they're at a completely different level of what you could do or really should be thinking to do. And so from my standpoint, if we're going to let them do what they do, and we would do something else.
Okay.
I remember when our kids went down there for the tournament. I was amazed. I went down there for the tournament, for our thing, which we won. Our fields are better than the fields there, but they're used constantly. They're just constantly turned over.
Right, because that is my concern, and then I'll hand it over to whoever's next. That is my concern. Sports tourism, it sounds so wonderful, but what Deltona would be, we'd be a donor community. People can't stay here, as you know. we don't have a lot of restaurants. So, you know, you talk about the beach. Well, people will be spending their money on the beach side. So I think we'll probably get a lot of thank you cards from Orange City and DeLand and Daytona, but it does nothing for us. I'd rather see us make the investment in the youth that's here. I kind of would like to see the percentage of the number of that 20 to 25,000 youth that actually participate in sports in our community. But, to my fellow commissioners, because I won't be here in 2 months and you'll probably have this conversation afterwards.
We're going to talk about you after you.
I know you will, but that's okay. I'll be okay with that because I'll be home watching you on TV.
No, you'll be coming making comments, hopefully.
I will be coming about this, without a doubt, because I have too many concerns. The last thing I wanted to share with you, I guess you weren't in town this morning, Seminole County Sports Authority is in line to probably get a penalty of $54,000. They are not delivering the tournaments or the bed, the hotel reservations. I will leave this here so that everyone can see this in case you missed it. But it kind of gave me like a little angst yesterday when I'm seeing this, and we're having this conversation tonight. So thank you, John.
Okay.
I think for the clarification of the study, I mean, there was a big push here for a while to look at a stadium and do all that, and that's basically why we did this study, is to go ahead and find out what the reality is for this city, instead of putting up something and saying, build it and they will come. So this is proof, which, that's not, we're certainly not at that level, and we probably never will be if you want to look at the reality of it, to put an actual showpiece stadium up there. We don't have the land for it unless something else changes. But when I look at what you said, again, reiterating that we don't have the hotels or really the infrastructure to support actually looking at something that you're going to make money off of, and that's going to bring money into your city. I just don't see that happening for Deltona at this point. But did you guys, by any chance, look at the Sports Volusia website?
No.
Yes.
Oh, Eric may have.
Okay, that's the county's website. It's
Yes,
called,
yes, that, he did look at that. Yes.
Okay, because I think they do a decent version of promoting a lot of the different every sports entity in there, and we are listed definitely. But the one thing that struck out to me were two things: partnering and marketing, and partnering with the schools and partnering. We have to start looking at our trail system that we, like you said, that we already have. A lot of the comments that I hear from some of the residents, people want to walk, and they want to walk on a trail that's safe. And that's somewhat, even in the parks, that they want to walk around a park that's somewhat lit at night if they're going to go as it gets darker, and as an adult you're going to do the walking or the running or whatever on the trails. And marketing, we have this community center coming up, and I just am a strong believer in that you have to hire someone that knows what they're doing, because if you don't hire someone that knows what they're doing with the community center, you're never going to be able to market your other facilities well at all. You can't expect Park and Rec to do that. Their job is a different niche from marketing, and I think that's the city really needs to look at the reality of what you want to do. If you want to make this successful, you have to have a marketing program along with whatever you put together with your community center and your fields and everything else. And the other question I have, you mentioned aquatics. Did you see in any type of a comment about a community, a pool or an indoor pool or a facility? I know you touched briefly on that, but...
Well, we did talk about it, kind of internally, and the thought that there were three pretty high level facilities that were already that kind of where the age group and with that that local people kind of felt like it was pretty well served with those.
And you're looking at which three facilities? The Y?
Both wives.
No. The Lake, I can't remember.
So there's Spruce Creek has a pool run by Ryan Lockie's dad. There's one in Ormond, and there's one, actually the West Volusia Killer Whales out on 92 at the main YMCA facility. We have a pool here, which is a fantastic facility. It's just underutilized.
Well, I mean, and the reason I say that is there's several community residents that continually mention a community pool. And I know that for us to do that as a city, it's expensive, but that's why I want to look at, to explain that you feel that there's enough, that the Y pool is underutilized as a community pool, and then for actual, not just consumer recreation, when you're looking at actual swimming things, I agree, there's Lake Brantley and even Deltona State College, don't they have a decent pool there or
We
something?
do, they have a team.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
Yeah.
That's it, I think.
Okay. All right. Excuse me, Jim. Go ahead.
As you heard, that 1,400,000 looks really good, except probably 1 million of that is going to go outside of the city. We're going to be lucky if we get 400,000 out of that. So you all know that's not going to happen. When you were talking about the groups of soccer and whatever, have you met with any of the organizations yet, or is that
Here,
to come? Have you talked to any of them?
it needs to come. It's not in our current scope of services, for what we did.
Because you didn't reach out to anybody that's currently using these facilities.
No, normally that is part of a comprehensive, comprehensive long-term plan for our Parks and Rec. Not just those user groups, but the public. And some people are not part of a group, but they might, they're normally the number one thing people want is just to be able to walk.
So basically, you just looked at this facility.
Yeah, we had a little bit different, and normally we do this type of, we normally are not looking specifically into the sports tourism niche when we do a parks project, but when we look at the facilities and we look at what you have, we look at the number of people you have, we look at number of fields and gyms and stuff per capita, in national average and all those things. But really what's most important is what the people tell us that they want, because different communities want different things. So but that's not part of this project, but we're very well equipped to do that. We've done it, several times in award-winning, they've been very successful. If the public is behind it, it will get done. I think this is the beginning of what really needs to happen in order to, since our findings are that really what it sounds like to me, what everyone is saying is we need more fields, we need more gyms, we need more things for us to do. And then down the line, if we can capitalize on it, great. And that's kind of what we saw.
He talks more than I do, so I want to hear nothing out of any.
I get that.
That's a good thing.
This guy outdoes me, so it's close. I just want to bring up one thing that I let everybody go, and I'll go right back to. It's like, Mitch hit on a good point. Again, I'm going to be pushing constantly a bigger location, a bigger site that we do things on. Central location. Dewey Gloucester does that. We overload that park. The park's overloaded with everything, from fireworks. Anytime we do a big event there's no parking. We destroy the entire neighborhood with parking anytime there's events. So we need a bigger location. So that's my personal opinion. And seniors. Can you imagine how nice it would be if we had a similar, we can all visualize Dewey Gloucester, but think of that with having a lit track where you could go out there in the evening in the cool, change our mindset where they can walk where they're comfortable and they're safe. Most seniors are not going to walk these trails. Most of them have told me, and nothing against our trail system, but they're not the agile people that can run away or can jump on a bike and get. We need a big tract of land. We need to clear it. I'd like to see surfaces here for the kids, things that we can bring in that don't require the level of care that the soccer fields do, because they're like manicured. I wish my yard looked like our soccer fields do. But look what we've been able to do right out here. We had a wheat field out here, and thanks in a large part to our soccer people and Jane's assistants and our park, our people do it. Look how beautiful this is here. We can do that in an open field. And then all these other things can come later. We can't do it all today. The public wouldn't allow us to spend the kind of money to do it all at once. But we need that large location where we start doing things. And I don't like the synergy you talked about. I happen to own land on Red Fox. Those people down there, please don't use that word in public. That's a private road. That's not a city road or whatever it is. That's all individual owned those people. They get very nervous when we start talking about making a cut through their homesteads down there. I'm just saying. It's an idea. And
I'm analyzing from a purely physical thing without the idea, without having the public input.
Yeah.
Okay, good. First question, do you guys do any part of the study that shows if a city running its own sports program is better than outsourcing programs? Do you have any idea, or do you guys don't look at it?
You mean actually?
Right now, we outsource
Non-profits.
every youth program, every program. We don't run any adult leagues, we don't run any youth leagues, we run nothing.
The industry has gone to more club-run things, and the old model was Parks and Rec. They maintained the fields. They had to sign up. They put the coaches together, and they ran the program. Most people don't do that. We have one park that we've been working with for about 10 years. We did a master plan. They still have a parent-run organization that supports, and they provide coaches and stuff like that. But even they are getting away from it because it's transitional. You may have a group of parents that are really good at it for a while, and then the ones that come behind it don't, and so it kind of ebbs and flows. And even theirs does. So having it outsourced is one way to do it. The other way to do it is to have a complete section of your Parks and Rec department that just does programs. That's what they're moving to. They had the facilities people there in place, but now they've hired an executive director, have a programming person, they've hired a concessions person. So they're but it doesn't need to be, just get this guy to run the programs too, because you can't do both.
Right.
And there are people that are more expert in facilities and people that are more expert in running programs.
Well, that leads me to the next part of that. You do this all the time. A city our size. How many cities our size do you find don't have one county sports park or field in the
That's
city?
political, that's the thing.
I mean, you talked about the one you tied in Orange City, that you said it was a nice level. That's a county park in Orange City.
Right.
Yet we're Deltona, and we don't have a single. And like I said, we go back to the $250,000 we spend on that amphitheater. That money should be going into some type of sports park that the county's involved
All
in.
right, I'm going to take two more here, and then I'm going to go to the audience for a few minutes so we can get some input from them before we wrap up.
Okay, so my comment, just listening to all of this, is just, I almost feel like this is step one. I think we've really solidified that we can't do sports tourism now, and we can't build a stadium right now. I think that we need to definitely look at what's best for our city, and it really, to me, defines looking at a master plan for parks. You have to do that for recreation. I mean, to me, that would be the next step, because, I mean, if we want to do this, to me, it's about time Deltona started doing this right, and I think by getting a consultant in here and doing that, we've done this right. Now, the next step is to have a consultant come in, and do the next level. Look at what we have, like what Diane said. Look at what we have. Look how the level of everything. What is your input from your youth, from your seniors, from your people, and then go ahead and have a public forum and have really have public input at well-advertised public forum. And even if we have to do two or three different things in the chamber to bring that in, I think if you do that, then the next step is to look at a funding source. Because the reality of it is that the city of Deltona's tax dollars cannot support building out all these facilities. That's a reality. You can't. Even if we were to go ahead and put up a gym and tennis courts and all that, the tax dollars that we bring in from ad valorem taxes are not there to cover that. So you have to look at an outside funding source, and whether you look at that as partnering with your schools, partnering with Deltona State College, look at the land that's back here. I mean, let's investigate a lot of different things that you can find, but you also have to identify a funding source. And I feel like if the public's really involved as our residents, I feel they would support a funding source. Whether you take another separate millage, or you do a bond, or you do something but it has to be open, clear, and the public has to be behind it and understand that we're doing something for the future of the city, and not just putting up one facility that's going to turn over that we might use. I mean, you're going to look at the entire scope of what we have, the pieces of land that we have, DuPont Lakes. I mean, to me, you can build that out amazingly well, or we can sell it. And there's a lot of different options that we have, but I really feel like for us, me personally, I don't have the education. Brian is probably the most well-versed in any type of sports to know what he's talking about here. I am like, no way close to that. I would prefer that professionals do that, and then involve the general public and really look at what we can do for the future of this city.
Okay, thank you.
As a
And
next step.
I think that we need to, we're not gonna have time this evening, but we need to spend some time, just us talking about this, because I think it's we're all, we've learned one thing, if nothing else, we don't have a sports niche, and we're not looking for that, we're looking to take care of our residents. Diane, did you want to say something?
No.
I'll go to public. Okay, Jim, you wanted to speak? I'm sorry, Mr. Petch, give your name and address, Pesha, give your name and address to,
Jim Pasha, Oakville Drive, District 2. My main concern or comment's going to be, we're a residential community, 80% residents, 20% commercial. All the main drags that you identified as crossing back and forth across it are not two-lane all the way down, they're four-lane. Our traffic congestion would be outrageous if we tried to bring in sporting facilities into this area and utilize all of our existing parks. Great idea, but I don't think that we have the infrastructure to support that with the current roads the way they are. Traffic is a major concern to us. I moved from Seminole County out here to Deltona specifically because of the quiet bedroom community this is. I don't want to see us overdevelop this into a community that I left. No, the quietness is great here. We don't have the hotels, we don't have the restaurants, we don't have the businesses to support bringing in tourism or anything of that nature. So anything we do, we have to take into consideration the base concept of Deltona. It's a bedroom community. Yes, we need some business, but let's keep it in tune with our core situation. Residents.
all right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Your name and address for the record.
I'm Phyllis Stauffenberg. I live on Timbercrest Drive, and I'm in District 5, Deltona. I'm only suggesting one thing for the board. If you would please kindly consider to get 3 proposals for an analysis and 3 proposals for any work that might be contracted and let for a bid to compare.
For
Don't we do
construction,
that?
you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, we do
we
that.
always
Yeah.
do that.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. That's
Yeah,
all
we
right.
bid it all out,
You're all
right?
here.
Luther, you want to speak?
Yeah, I like what everybody's presented today. It's very informative. And going back, we sold Seminole
We
County.
need your address for the record, Bobby.
I don't live in Deltona, but we own about 1,000-acre property area. And we're in Halifax Hospital, and we got 8 or 9 large parcels there. And we've been investing here for about 20 years. But I do agree that we sold this complex to Seminole County also, the land to Seminole County for their sports complex about 4 years ago. And what Deltona really does do need is, going back to those hotels, you don't have the infrastructure to support anything. If you go back to the basic needs first and then build from there, to build up from there is take care of the immediate needs, then you can always grow or add to it. And you need to get a facility. We sold them 90 acres over there in Seminole County, and then they came back for 10 more and 15 more. And they keep coming back because we have all the rest of the land wrapping it. But what's needed here, you need to figure out something that's at least 100, 150 acres, 200 acres. And then you can always add to the same facility over the course. Don't look at stuff with a 2 or 3 or 5 year horizon. Look at it with a 20 and 30 and a 40 year horizon. Look at it. And if you think Deltona's done growing, it's not. It's going to be on 415. 415 going into New Smyrna is going to be built up. 44 is going to be built up. The back of Providence is going to be built up. Lake Elnosi is going to be built up. So you got to think of what's going to happen 20 years from now. We moved here in the 70s. And I've just seen the growth and development. There was 450,000 people living here. Today there's 2.6 million living in our central Florida community. So to say that growth is not going to stop, it is not going to stop, because we have baby boomers coming from the Northeast moving into here. We have jobs being created. We live in a very dynamic area. So I think we need to look at this with vision of not, let's assemble 10 or 15 acres there, 100, 200, 300 acres where we can add to it. And if you do have that kind of land, then you can get facilities like having a Popka, where they do have big 4th of July festivities. You do have large Thanksgiving festivities. You have a lot of stuff that you can do as far as the city goes. So I think we should really go, maybe, I guess, find a consultant or something to look at all of the large tracts of parcels that you guys do have, and complements what the city wants to see. And if you do add to that, over the course of time, you will have hotels and restaurants. With Halifax, we do have a hotel user coming in the area, but that's going to take years. But today's immediate concerns, look at that, and then look at something with 5, 10, and 20 year. Maybe make a what we want to see, and then you can figure out what you want to buy.
Just a side note, because you deal in land all the time, most of us, I know you, and City, good evening, but anyway, property values are going up too, for rare land. So, that could be step one in a multifaceted step that takes time while the study's going on, but you still need a location. I did want to say something else, though. Deltona's criticized a lot, you know that. I mean, those of us on the commission, we're always criticized about, oh, Deltona, I don't want to be. But I'll tell you what, where do the kids come from? Osteen, DeBerry, Sanford, Orange City, Lake Helen, to play ball, to play soccer. I mean, we're always, you know, I think you said it before, Diane, we're Donor City. We are in more respects than you really want to know. And Steve and his team, and Jane and the team she has, the directors, we do an awful lot in this community that supports a lot of people outside this community. And for the most part, we don't charge a separate fee for people that are not residents. I mean, we welcome them like family in here, and it's becoming more and more costly. And I really think that we can do an awful lot for the whole Southwest Volusia area. Maybe it's a subject that, if you all agree, it's something maybe we should put on the agenda for our next Southwest Volusia Summit. Because, you know, I know you mentioned, and please don't take this personally, it's good that you don't have the information we have locally because you get an outside view of it. But every time I go see the field that they have, that you brought up before, Commissioner, over Rhode Island, you know, if Rhode Island comes through, and I don't know how many of you got the email today from the state, but the Beyond Ultimate I-4 project, that's a portion of that. They may put that road across there. And look at how much more traffic's going to dump into Deltona. So I'm thinking that I'll finish up with the audience, and then we got a half hour to still kick this around. But yeah, your name and address for the record. You know.
Christopher Alcantara, 574 Blvd Avenue. My question earlier, Commissioner Diane has said that part of the contract was looking at our existing facilities, existing fields, and you said that had not been done, but it was part of the contract. Why not?
We did, well, because
Yeah, there is a part of that in the contract.
it's part of that contract, and it's just a matter of to what level, and we've done that. We just didn't focus on it on this presentation because we were trying to, the first time constraints, and really the first thing we're trying to do is we needed to address initially was, is there a sports niche? We wanted to, we were, you know, directed to look at the stadium and city center as well, you know, in terms of how that factored into the recreation. And then, but we've looked at about half of them, and I just didn't show them all because we don't want to get into the weeds.
This is not a finished study.
Yeah, this is
We'll get more into that later.
yeah, this is we're about halfway finished.
Great.
So.
I heard a buzzer or something go off.
That was the
Elevator.
elevator, something
Oh.
must have went down there.
That's an aged athlete coming out of the game. It's like your belly
He's
going
hearing.
off. I think I got it right now. Okay. Yes,
I
ma'am.
just wanted, my name is Gina Dillon. I live at 735 West Lorraine Drive.
Who knows her? Anybody here know her?
I've been a resident of Deltona since 1974, and I have seen Deltona grow from the sticks. The first parks that we had were Campbell Park and Van Park, which John and my mother and many other community people built that little league up. The growth in Deltona has not stopped. It's not going to stop. And we're a resident community, but we are a sports community. This community has so many things going. You can drive down these roads and you can see what these cheer teams do, these baseball teams. This is a good thing. These kids are not out being dysfunctional. They're involved in their community. The thing that we need to do as parents is we need to go out there and promote this. I don't know if anybody here is with any of the soccer leagues or the baseball leagues here tonight, but we need to have a forum with them. We need to bring them in and find out their numbers. How many team players are on there? How many coaches that are devoting their volunteer time? They don't get paid to do that. They're doing that on a volunteer basis. So we need to bring those type of people into a forum and get them to back a community stadium. We're not ready for worldwide of sports, it would be nice, but we're not ready for that as a community. But we do need a Spec Martin here. We have 3 beautiful high schools that our residents attend. University being one of them has no field. We have nothing over there. And I'm on the cusp of that. I'm a graduate of Deltona High School. My parents fought for that school for many years prior to us becoming a city. That stadium has not changed in 27 years. I'm an alumni, 27 years, first graduating class out there. It has not changed since 1990. To say that the schools and the school board are going to get behind us as a city and let us into their fields, it's not going to happen. We have to fight to play at Pine Ridge and Deltona, and we're a part of West Volusia. So we need a stadium. We need to get our community, our 85,000 people, out from underneath the blanket, and wake up and get involved. And the way to do that is to get out now and promote. Let them know we need a sports complex. Get them involved. The way to do that is getting these little league teams and all these people that are out there on weekend basketball at West Cryle. There's a way to do it. We just have to, those of us that are here that are proud of Deltona, have to spread the word tenfold over tomorrow to everybody and let them know to get involved.
I wanted to say something. I normally probably wouldn't embarrass her, but because I'm so old and I remember when she was a little baby, Dr. Clyde married me. That's Gina's her daughter. And he was my doctor for a long, long time, and neither one are with us anymore. But Gina's taken over. She did mention one thing. I don't know, there's not too many people know how active she is with the scouting. And that's another element. In this city alone, at our parks, and all through our city, at churches, clubs, parks, scouting is probably pouring thousands of dollars every year into our community with blood, sweat, tears, everything else that they do with very little recognition. And I love the idea of a large facility, a large place, a place for them too. You know, our scouts can't even camp in this city because there's no place for them to go, to have an overnight camp out of part of scouting. Open burning, there's a lot of these. They don't necessarily need to have open burning, but they're scouts. I mean, you know, we really don't have a nice place for them. We used to have one down here, and it's become kind of it's a problem area. But I'm just saying, there's so much we can do for our people here, which draws, and I think Mr. Pesh said it the best. It's a residential community. We're going to take care of our people here, but we can accomplish all the things that Brian and I have been talking about for years, and Gina brought up, and we can do that in the right site, in the right place in this community, and I hope we keep moving forward. So that was it for the public, so we'll close the public hearing. I was going to go to you next, Jane, for any further questions you need answered by us to give you direction to move forward.
Okay, well, I have a statement, and I want to make a suggestion as well. The whole purpose of doing this analysis, when I first came here, you know, my direction was we need a stadium, we need a sports facility, and I couldn't come up in my mind what that meant. I couldn't picture it, you know, what that defined, you know, how big, what was it going to be, was it going to be fields, a building, was it football, soccer, I don't really know. And I really felt that we needed to have an independent analysis, and one that would be honest with us, to tell us, you know, things that we need to hear. All right, and I think we started that. Okay, and I think what it's done is it's helped us to kind of like scope or go in a certain direction. I've heard a lot here, and I think to be fair, this presentation was not posted, so you're hearing it for the first time. It's a lot to digest. My thinking is there's a lot that was discussed. I'd like to have this PowerPoint posted, and I would suggest that after you've had some time to really think about it, that we have another workshop follow-up so I can get to me, which is a lot more clear direction. Because we've talked about, I think some good things is, you know, we talked about the need for a gym. We talked about focusing on a master plan for parks, and then actually what I would like to do is develop a capital improvement program. You know, not just a master plan, but a CIP devoted to parks. And I've even spoken to Steve about that I hope that that's developed similar where we adopted a transportation CIP to address our roadway infrastructure needs, right? Because I think a plan without having a funding mechanism associated with it is just kind of like a nice plan.
I think we agree with you too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the presentation, although I have to be honest, a lot of it's dry. I mean, a lot of it we knew. No, but it shows that did their homework and looked into it. But I think we learned something important.
Right.
That we don't have really a sports tourism niche. There's tourism is not, but the things that I like, we don't capitalize on what we do have and what's good. And that's what I want to see. How many times have we talked, and you've been at the meetings, we talked about the trails. We have spent millions in this county building trails, and yet, every trail you go on, there's no cooperative work on those trails where there's a little trailhead where, somebody could go in and put a stand or a something to make them whatever, or you feel more like there's something there, like some sort of recreational activity. We've got the situation we're going to have to deal with the next year or two too down on the lake. We have not, as a commission, decided yet what we're going to do with that lakefront property. That's a perfect recreational complex. So I think the next phase that you're saying move forward with, we should look at all our parks. What's there? What's the future for that park? We've talked about DuPont Lakes. You brought it before, Heidi. We talked about what we were going to do with that someday. Maybe that can be changed from what it is to something else because it's up in that area.
It could be a showpiece.
It
could be
like a
beautiful.
master
It could
plan.
be a
Yeah, start
one
looking at
beautiful
master
place,
plan.
or
Yeah.
you talked about commercial, there's no reason, parking is a problem everywhere. So and that's why, I'm not gonna keep, I wish Mr. Luther would have stayed here, Mr. Jaffer, they're landowners, big landowners, they own lots of acres up on 44 outside of our city, but over 1,000 acres here. And it's gonna take a big site to do the things we wanna do. I would hate to see us put any kind of facility on a small 5 to 10 acre site, because then what happens? If it becomes popular, you got no place to park the people. If you have an event there, no place to park the people. So you have to, we've learned in Deltona that we thought 20 acres, 30 acres was big enough. It just won't do anymore. You can't do it because if it gets to be a popular event, no place to put the people. Look at that one at the fireworks this last year. How many? You were all there. They're parked down the side streets and the woods.
But that happens
everywhere.
like in Ormond too, and they have you have shuttles or you have other things that you
And you
arrange
can't
them and you
go
make
for
it
all
work.
the
But having only one park and the pressure that's put on it, and Steve's been so quiet there, I'm wondering if he's comatose.
Probably has to be.
All that pressure's put on him to keep that park in the. We wanted beautiful. We went there the other day for the opening Saturday morning. The air was so thick you could barely breathe with the humidity on the bullying event, but everything's done there. And there was one line in your talk, and I'm not going to let you speak again. There was one line in his talk which really said, we're trying to do everything on a place that's not really set up properly. There may be, if we got another big place, we could do some changes to that area. And turn that stage around and use that back. There's a lot of things we can do, but we just can't keep loading stuff at Dewey Gloucester anymore.
And that's why I said is I'd really like for us to have another discussion because we can change the emphasis. Because remember the first question you asked me to do is define the sports facility, which is what I tried to do. And so that's why there was an emphasis on answering that question. But we did not ignore looking at the existing facility. So now if we have a little more definitiveness on a framework, we can then work with the consultant and you can give me further direction on where we should be headed.
And this land, I think you brought it up, Heidi, this land we're sitting on right now, when we first negotiated this deal with Speaker House Feeney, there's 100 acres here. And you're thinking way out in the future. How long do you think it'll be before the college ever needs this 100 acres?
Right. And
Well,
Mayor,
think seriously.
They're looking to build out. They're
They're only
growing.
build one more building here when they get funding, but there's still 75 acres.
but this site,
untouched.
we also included in the scope, we asked them to look at Deltona
Yeah,
City.
that's what I'm saying. That's later in the thing, but there's so many other options we haven't looked at yet. So, okay, I agree. We'll see it in another meeting. We were gonna end this then, and you wanted some time.
Well, just one closing comment on that, and on
Okay,
this.
well, let's close that out.
Yeah, no, yeah, on this. Yeah, on the spec, on the field.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's knowing who you are and what we are in Deltona. We are a middle to lower class housing community, okay? Sports is a means to an end that gets kids out of a community, gets them successful. I was an athletic director for 10 years at a high school right over here that has 160 kids in it. When our teams made the baseball playoffs, our field wasn't big enough at Trinity. So we had to go rent fields in DeLand, Father Lopez, Seminole High School, because there's nothing even around here. When our football team made the playoffs, we had to rent Spec Martin, Father Lopez. We had to find fields because it's sad that a city this size, I couldn't even play a playoff game in my own city because we had no facilities that would. So that's all I'm saying is moving forward. I've never met her, never said it, but the field, we don't need a Citrus Bowl. We don't. But if you go to Dewey right now, you can't sit 200 people out there. You can't. There's just not enough seating. And the logistics to get people in and out, you need a facility where you can host events, where you have green space, where you can have people sit in stands. You don't need a massive facility, but you need something. So
Where they can come in and out without impact.
it's no different than why we just built that community center right here that we're building, because you can't have a homecoming or a prom in our city. Well, we fixed that problem.
Or a dinner.
We fixed that problem. So now we need to make it where you can do this.
If we could teach you to cook, we'd have all bases covered.
Can I just say one other thing?
All right, so I gotta,
Only if I'm allowed to.
we'll allow you 1 minute quickly because we
Okay.
close
Done, done,
out.
done.
It's just a quick question.
Okay.
Tom Stauffenberg,
Yeah.
Deltona, 2957. Are you able to incorporate
Sir, you gotta kind of direct it to me
Oh,
by law.
okay, are we able to incorporate a 20-year plan where we were, take a 5-year and do what we need right now, but build out from there, and 5 years, say, okay, this is what we're looking at, you know, we'd like to add this.
Because you're a candidate, there's two of you, the candidates for office, this is the most important thing you'll ever remember. Commissioner Harvey, everything we do is permanent until we change it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if you build a 20-year plan,
It's good till it's signed, and then 2 days later it can change. But I say that not to be, not to blow your way, but yeah, do a plan, a master plan. Really, 20 years is probably longer. We don't want to think that far ahead.
Yeah, you
But
do.
we've got now 20 years. No, I mean, we have 20 years now to go on. So we can see, and Gina hit the nail on the head. That high school sit out there, we've begged them, we've tried to take over maintenance of the field. The school board has not been a willing partner with us because of liability and all the things that Diane knows. Well, Diane, you know,
I
it's
wanted
really
them to
hard.
stay
I know.
at university.
And the principal has control, and some of their rules are different. But there's no reason why, when we make that plan, we can't bring them in as partners too. The manager can bring that people in and say, hey, enough is enough. We got a history down. We got 20 years of being a city. You want to work with us or get out of our way because this is what we're going to do. And when you want some, don't come and want to use our park. We're going to give you an opportunity now to be a partner, but don't come and ask to use our park for your big event when you don't have room on your own campus if you don't work with us now. Those are the kind of things I think you're talking about, Tom, that we can sit down. Those are what we need to do in that plan.
But I think
Okay.
it was good to have a real objective view.
Yeah.
I think to have a view of someone that doesn't, of a group that doesn't know any of the political biases, any of the
Right.
things, just to come in and do a cold look at what we have
that's what.
and give us a reality check, or just be, and I think
That's what
they've
this
done
thing
that,
is.
and I'm glad, I'm
Yeah,
really glad to
I'm
hear
happy
that.
already.
Yeah.
A lot
You've done
of
that.
questions.
Okay, all right.
One thing, when Jane does post that
She's going to post it.
presentation on the webpage, so we can see it there and the residents can see
Yeah,
it.
that's what she said. I'm sorry, I thought, did you miss that?
No, she said post it, but I can't wear it. She just, usually
Well,
it's like in our Dropbox or
Behind the
our
dumpster, she
folder.
got a board there, she puts
I
stuff.
know, but I don't
she
feel like
wants you to
going
see.
there.
Well, she don't want you to see it, that's why she puts it
Look
there.
at that there.
Okay, no, it's going to go on the website.
All right, cool.
And I do want to only say that our Y representative here, we all know her. So we're not building a pool, we're going to mess up your pool down there, but there's always talk, there's those old diehards here, but I remember, and Nancy remembers, because we're we're ancient athletes, is that the term? What you say?
Yeah. You and I are, he's almost there.
I'm getting close.
Getting
I'm getting
close.
close.
Well, us ancient athletes remember the 30 or 40 years that we tried to get a pool in Deltona. When that
We
thing.
tried to get one for Deltona High School and I went,
Yeah, I know.
It costs us
All right,
unbelievable.
okay, so, we're gonna do with this, and I have a subject that Mr. Sukup wants to bring up, which is not on the agenda, so we can only direct later to go on, but you can.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to get it out to you guys. I got something that's been bothering me for a couple weeks. Really, there's never a good time to get it out or expose it, but I know I would appreciate it if you guys would have brought something like this to me. I'm one of those guys, I see the best in everybody. I really do. I want to see you for who you are until you do me wrong. And I tell you, I believe the salary study was manipulated. I believe it was. But I can now speak to something that was really done to me and in front of me. I confronted the city manager 2 weeks ago, actually last Tuesday. I had heard through the rumor mill that a fireman in our city got paid a $50,000 check to buy him out of his excess vacation time and his sick time on a promotion. Which is okay, that's a union contract, so be it, so be it. Well, then I find out that we gave them 75%. Okay, so we went above the union contract. So we broke the union contract. We set precedents for everyone behind it. So I sat down with her and asked her, said, man, $50,000 check, that's a lot of money. You know, the firefighter already made over $100,000 last year. Now he's making $150,000. And she's like, well, that's a one-time thing. I believe it was cheaper to do it now. It's in the best interest of the city. So we had a full-out conversation. 2 days later, I find out that the check is for $93,000. So I had a full 30-minute conversation with our city manager where I feel she lied to me, okay? So I called her up. I said, hey, I got an issue. I feel you lied to me. You know, it might be lying through omission, but I sat and had a full conversation with you, throwing out a number. And you not one time did you say, that wasn't it. It was this. At no time did she tell me the guy went from making $33 an hour as a firefighter. We gave him a promotion to $45 an hour as an administrative guy, and we paid him those ungodly amounts of hours at the $45 rate and not the $33 rate. So now you have, we broke the contract by paying 75%, where we should have paid 50%, which let me remind everybody sitting in here, as a city employee, if you're a regular city employee, you get to keep 25% of your time, and you're capped at 500, which is like it's ungodly anyway, but you're capped. This firefighter had over 2,200 hours of vacation time accrued, and I want to say 1,200, 1,100 hours of sick time. So we end up cutting this guy a check for $93,000. So I got multiple problems here. I feel I was lied to. And, so I started diving into, past. Because I believe, Dr. Philly says the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And I look and say, okay, well, why did Jane leave her last job? And then I read the quote here from District 4 City Rep. It was like a smokescreen. You just pulled the wool over my eyes and it's not going to happen anymore. He and the other council members questioned Shane's honesty. Now, I believe she does a lot of good things. But I'm questioning her integrity. I'm questioning her character today. I was lied to. I believe I'll have proof for you guys that the salary study was manipulated. We just broke a union contract. Paid it. Now, listen, you guys know a year and a half ago we decided to close City Hall the day after Christmas, right? That wasn't supposed to cost us 1 penny, right? You guys all remember up there? This wasn't supposed to cost us 1 penny. Well, it cost us a penny. We had to pay every single firefighter there. Was it 15 hours?
10, I believe.
10. We gave every single firefighter 10 hours of admin time. So it cost us. Why did it cost us? Because their union contract states you can't give one to one and not to the other. So now what we just did is we just paid a firefighter 75% of his time. If you're a fireman, what do you want now? What do I want now? We argued this union contract for hours, okay? I would hope that my city manager will at least, God knows that I'd like to take that union contract today and tear it up, but I can't. But God knows I would like my city manager to at least enforce what we agreed on. To pay a firefighter who already made over $100,000 last year, an additional $93,000, And then on top of that, they put like, if you're a regular city employee, now I'm always going to go back to what does this look like if you're a regular city employee? See, what it looks like to me as an outsider is, when it comes to the union contract, extending it for 3 years, giving them everything they want, paying $93,000. When it comes to the employees of the City Hall, giving them a salary study, which I believe was manipulated from day one, we are trying to buy their approval. And to be a successful organization, you don't buy approval. You prove that you know what you're doing. And so I'm questioning everything right now. But I know as city commissioners, that was never brought to my plate. I don't know if you guys were aware of what went down. It was never brought in front of me. And then when I brought it up, she skirted around the fact and never told me the truth. I would expect, when I talk to my city manager, that she looks at me and says, no, Brian, that wasn't that. Even though she knows I'm going to go ballistic on it. That she says, no, that was for 93. Here's what I did. This is why I paid them at the $43 an hour rate. If you're leaving as a firefighter making $33 an hour, right? You're leaving there. Why in the hell would you ever get paid the $43 of your promoted rate? Why? I can't, I sit here and I can't rack my brain. He would have still received a huge check. He would have received a huge check to come over here at 50%. There was no need to go to 75% to break the union contract and to pay him at the higher rate. I don't know if you guys knew about that. I wanted to air it out.
Brian,
And I want you to
it's
think.
fine. You keep pointing as if you're referring to a document. Is that a public record document? Or you just put it on a piece of paper?
No, piece of paper. This is just the thing off the TV, off the internet.
Okay, that's all. Okay, you made some strong allegations. I don't think we should go any further with that until we have an opportunity to let Jane respond to us, unless you have a question for Brian, because I have 100 questions right now, and I don't think it's appropriate to do that until she's had a chance to. Have you had
Can
a
she
meeting with her
respond?
since then?
I met with her, and then I called her on the fact that she lied to me.
And you have had a chance to talk to her since?
I told her that she lied to me, and I told her that I was very
Do you
upset.
want to respond now, or would you like
Yeah.
to respond in writing?
No, I do want to respond.
Okay.
All right. I take offense to what was just said. All right. There's nothing more important to me than honesty and integrity. All right. And in regards to the contract, some of the statements that you're making are inaccurate. The firefighter was not paid at the higher hourly rate. All right, as you're stating. All right. There is a difference between the hours worked as a general employee and as a firefighter. General employees work 2,080 hours. The firefighters work 2,990. What I did discover in the past is that when somebody came over, there wasn't what I called a conversion, because if they're working less hours, all right, then they're going to be paid, the hourly rate goes up, all right. Now, what I did do is, I did make an accommodation where I'm saying is that I did allow the firefighter to buy back some sick time and vacation time. Now remember, the hours are earned. I didn't, make up hours, I didn't add any hours. This person has worked 23 years and 5 months. Okay, they've been here a long time, they have not used vacation time, they have not used
Those are
sick time. Those
are benefits they've earned. So that's
They've
not-
earned it.
They earn 50% of them when they do it.
Okay,
That-
all
That's
right.
the point.
All right, now this firefighter has been here 23 years and 5 months. So they're 1 year and 7 months short of 25 years. All right. If you look at it, the person is, I think, like within the scale, I think they're probably about 68, 67% there if you prorated the time period.
So
Between 20 years is 50%. 25 years is 75. This person has been here 23 years and 5 months.
Okay, I
So
got you.
within the scale, that would equate to about 68%.
Between
Okay.
the 50 and the 75.
Between the 50 and
The
75.
contract reads, though, does not the contract read 20 years, you get 50%? You have to go to 25 to get the 75%, right?
Right.
Okay, that's a contract. You don't have the ability to adjust that, or
Well-
you're saying you did?
I do, and I also looked at it, and also, as a general employee, you don't get overtime, all right? So when you compare what the employee was making under the union contract, they actually were taking a pay cut. It was probably about, I think it was around like almost $30,000, because as a union, you have your base pay, plus you have certain incentives, and you have overtime. And the average overtime this person was making was about $28,000 a year. So when you come over to the general employee, there is no overtime. You're salaried. Okay. So they're coming from union to the general employee. It was probably about a 22% pay cut for this individual, going from, I think, 120 some odd thousand. When you add up the base pay plus the incentives and the overtime, and you compare it to their new pay, which I think is about 94,000. Okay, so there's a difference.
I can't visualize all these numbers in our heads, Jane.
Okay,
Did you follow the contract per the letter? You're saying no, you did not. Under what authority did you decide you were going to deviate from the written contract with the firefighters? That's the question I have.
I think I was approached because this person had...
By the person?
No, by the supervisor. That this person had so much time in, and could we prorate it or offer the 75% buyback?
Okay, I think we're getting pretty deep into
we
this because
are.
I've got some serious concerns right now.
What I'm saying is, on this is, the difference between if you prorate the time that the person was in this position to the 75%, it's only about $2,600 additional.
Ma'am,
All right.
ma'am, you're
I know.
You're justifying
The issue,
not following the contracts. What I think you're doing here, and under, I don't know that I want to go any further into this.
Well, can we just get a
Yeah.
copy? Can you please give us a copy of his contract, along with the union contract, and show me where we didn't pay him at the higher rate? And that's, I want to see that, but...
She said she did. She already said that.
No, she didn't.
No, she said she did pay him at the higher rate. That's prorated. He's leaving the union. He's coming to, he's just getting a job over here. You do what the union contract says. And but how do you explain? You lied to me.
We're getting into
You
well,
lied to me.
no. I did not lie to you. I did not recall the exact amount.
You don't remember a $93,000 check that you write a firefighter? Are you kidding me? Is there a contract this?
Brian, stop, please, stop. I know you're upset.
Oh.
Now,
I'm being lied to again.
No. I think before we get into any deeper in this, you need to justify exactly what was done in a white paper letter, exactly through Becky.
Becky, am I allowed to
No,
break a union contract and pay more than what the contract is
Sir,
for?
let her get out exactly what she did, and then we can make a determination on that. She's already said that she used some method to come up with a different figure, and I think if you were led to believe that that was a fair figure, but yet it was a violation of the contract or a change to the contract that she arbitrarily did, I want to see where that authority came from. Yeah. Does Becky know? Do you have the answer?
It's my understanding that Jane was negotiating an employment contract. She could have been negotiating it with a third party. The salary which she offered him was a salary which I understand was negotiated, and it was all part of the negotiation package. That's my understanding of it. And
Okay, you don't negotiate a union contract.
No, that's, he was not being hired as a union employee.
He was a
But-
union
He was a
employee that
non-union.
resigned and...
So what vacation time did you pay him for if he's already left the union? Then he has no time.
Once he cured, right?
No.
Okay, I don't know about the rest of you, I want a full
I want to see his contract.
report on what was done.
Everyone
what
should see
was
his
done.
contract.
And I mean, if you want to give it to the attorney, that's up to
Right.
you, but I want to see exactly what.
Right, and
Because no one has a right to violate a contract. You surely should have come to this commission before you made any addendum, I feel personally, with someone's contract. I want to know what's behind all this, who you met with.
It was never.
Why was there a third party, or why was this commission being made aware of a deviation from a contract? And
Wool
with that
over
being
eyes.
said, there will be, and is there anything else?
I
I did minor.
Let's bring them up later. I got my mind on something, unless you really need to bring them up.
She wanted to ask
I
about
just want to
this.
ask a question about, is this common practice in our city that contracts are negotiated, and is that something that's available for every employee to come in and negotiate their salary? Because this, I have no idea who this person is, and I really don't care. But the point is, the person agreed to take the promotion. So all this about the pay level, the pay scale is different. No one forced, as far as I know, this person to take this position. So I just really have a problem, and I want to know, how often do we negotiate contracts like this without the commissioners having absolutely no knowledge about this going on?
I think that hits the nail on the head, because we got into a situation years ago about contracts and negotiating. We have positions that have come available, they're open for bid, or if somebody wants to bid, she has the right to bid. Look, we don't negotiate separate contracts with individuals face to face. We put them out there, and then when someone's chosen for the job, then we negotiate a
That's what
contract.
happened.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to debate it here tonight. I want a full report of exactly what happened before we get any further into this. Because I don't want people's names and jobs and throw somebody under the bus who's not here to defend himself and all that tonight.
It's not about him.
No, but it's about.
Yeah.
It's
No,
about
no, but
what was
I
done.
do want to say is, I will have a full accounting prepared and
Okay.
sent out to all the entire commission, all right? And I did check whether or not I had the authority, and I was told I had the
Okay.
authority to do this.
Well,
All right.
the only ones that can tell you have the authority is the city commission. Here in
Well-
Boston, okay? So, but you give us a report and we'll have to take action, because that's one thing I do agree with. We gotta have trust and faith and confidence in what you do every day now.
But when you go in and speak to them, don't you want to know the whole story?
Yes,
I shouldn't have-
yes, sir. You're exactly right. Let's drop it there. We are adjourned.
No,
Oh, no,
I
yeah.
one
Yeah.
quick, and I know this is, I need clarification for the September 26th workshop. We got to think, because Jane's not
The
going to be here.
September 26th workshops have been canceled if you read your email.
Well, I also had a question whether or not we were going to cancel or not.
It is
It's
canceled.
canceled.
For sure, because I thought it'd be a great time.
You can come though if you want.
Well, I thought it'd be a good
For
time
sure,
for us to really
for
start talking about our legislative platform.
It would have been.
We had no
it
clue
would have
what
been
we want
a
to
good
have our
time.
legislators do.
It would have been, ma'am, but
we
I was
also have
lobbying
to-
long and hard not to have that meeting with the manager not here. So if there may have to be, there may have to be.
Oh.
By the way, I filled this out, that's my job.
Mayor, you know what I do? I open it.
You're adjourned.